There are 11 guns in Scape right now at the start of Season 1. Of course, others will be added and existing ones will be nerfed and buffed as time passes. But as of right now, which ones are the best and which ones are the worst? This is obviously going to be purely opinion based. The truth is that the majority of the guns have some value. It just depends upon your skills, playstyle, situation, the fusion level of the gun and stuff like that. So, I'll give you my worst to best list at this early stage. A list that almost nobody should fully agree with, of course, because it's constructed purely for how I play and what I enjoy. What I want you to do is leave your list of the 11 guns from worst to best in the comments below. On I play on console, which will affect the list, so feel free to say if you play on console or PC. That is our intro. Videos like this are powered by the Board of Awesome, thanks to the epic people here who support the channel on Patreon, including Somatic, who just restarted his support again, and also thank you for 50k subs, super appreciate it. Our next target is of course 60k, so if you're new or want to see more content from me, hitting subscribe would be dearly appreciated. Thank you very much. I'm going to kick things off with the auto-aim pistol, known as the DTAP. This is my worst weapon in the game, aside from the melee weapon, which obviously we aren't including, and it's not as if the DTAP can't be used. It does have some solid utility due to its unique mechanic. It locks onto the player and your shots hit them as long as they remain within your wide view box. So it can do some work in those situations where everyone's flying around all over the place, and at close range it's very easy to just get in there and spam and be confident of landing your damage or trying to finish off a weak enemy. But the downsides are very clear. It does very low damage. You're looking at like 20 body shots when it's fully fused and 23 when it isn't. Throw in that when it's not upgraded at all, it only holds like 15 rounds and you've got a bit of a problem on your hands. So yeah, if someone can aim and they've got a better weapon, they're going to kill you. And if you can aim, then the DTAP is a bit of a waste of time quite often. Extremely easy to use but with low potency, so it's not exactly a bad weapon. As with all of them, it has a purpose, but for me, it's my worst weapon in Scape right now. Next up in 10th place, we have the newly added for Season 1 Dragonfly, which is the semi-auto rifle. Now look man, I really wanted to enjoy this gun. It's cool, it's silenced, it should be good. It's my kind of gun, but it's just not been possible to enjoy. I get into a position where it's supposed to shine in like mid to long range, but it's just so hard to make it worthwhile, which is why it's so easy to find so many of them lying around. People just don't want to use it. I've had this gun fully fused a bunch of times and it's never felt worth picking up instead of a bunch of other weapons. You have to be precise. The movement of the game is so fast and you have to land so many shots, so lots of the time it becomes an exercise in either consistently missing or putting the enemy low health and they just run away. Especially on console, as it's really tricky to land your damage on a consistent basis with the semi-auto weapon. So something needs to be tweaked, possibly aim assist or hitbox size for semi-autos. So yeah, not a fan of the Dragonfly right now, and I think most of the console community feels the same. Let me know if that's different on PC. Okay, next up we have the Riot One, which is the heavy pistol or revolver. Basically it's the wingman from Apex, and this isn't a bad gun at all. It really isn't. You can do some massive damage with it, but I'm selecting it because again it's a semi-auto option, and with the current balancing and playing on console, it's just so much easier to use a full auto weapon. So again, you're often left either missing or getting the enemy weak, and then they start evading your shots. It can be very scary to get hit by this gun, but you're much more likely to die to a full auto. In fact, I believe I'm yet to be killed by this gun a single time, at least that I can remember. It's not been many. So the semi-autos just aren't really shining at the minute, and that's a shame. Please balance this out a bit, Ubisoft Montreal. Onwards, and still in the fairly unimpressive section of the list, I'm going for the plasma launcher known as the Komodo. The idea is really solid and it's pretty easy to use. You shoot, the plasma mass flies out and blows up on impact. It's like a really easy to use grenade launcher, but it just does so little damage that it takes so many hits to kill anyone. You either have to manage to consistently land your hits over and over as the enemy flies around everywhere, or hope you're trying to land the final killing blow on a weak enemy, or alternatively, just hope the enemy doesn't move for some reason as you repeatedly blast them. With a bit of a damage tweak or blast radius buff, this thing could be good, but right now it's just not much of a threat, and again I don't think I've been killed by it a single time, which means people aren't using it, which generally means it's not very good, or at least just doesn't match up to something else that's available. Okay, next, and I can barely believe I'm saying this, I'm going for the sniper rifle known as the Protocol 5. Now any gun that has the power to one-shot kill can be a beast, and I really toyed with putting this one higher up the list, but in the end I had to put it here. It's a skill weapon for sure, and it will reward practice. The problem is, again, just as I said for some earlier entries, extreme movement abilities, fast pace, combined with tricky aiming, at least again on console, level, and you end up with a gun that can one-shot kill, but the opportunity to do so feels somewhat rare, when instead you could just spam away with another gun instead. I'm also yet to be killed by a sniper, likely due to the fact I move around a lot, and so it's absolutely not a bad gun. It can be very good, and it should be hard to use, and maybe shouldn't be changed at all. But in a game that plays like Hyperscape, I'm just much more likely to pick a different weapon a lot of the time. I hope I change my mind as time passes though, as I love sniping in other games. It just feels like it doesn't have as much utility in this one compared with other options. Alright, next we reach the midpoint of the list, and it seems like a great spot for the shotgun known as the Mammoth Mark I. I think this one is a little bit undervalued by most, due to Hyperscape being a battle royale, so the play area is pretty large, meaning lots of wide open spaces, but if you can bait people inside or alternatively go and rush people who are sitting in a building, you can do some serious work. Now don't expect to be one blasting people with it, you often need 2, 3, maybe even 4 shots unless the enemy is already weak, but you can still have a massive advantage with this high burst damage if you can land your shots consistently. While they're plugging away trying to put you down with something designed for more versatile play, the shotgun can make mincemeat of them, and you do have a bit of range on it. So think of it less as a traditional shotgun from other FPS games and more like a precision shotgun. Land a few shots and you're going to be doing fine. Not a bad option at all, just also not particularly great. Okay, onto the top half of the list, and I'm selecting the energy cannon, known as the Skybreaker. This one is a little underappreciated right now as well, I feel, mainly because it kinda sucks at close range, but at longer ranges it does more damage, but then most people think, well, at long range the enemy is going to move. This is Hyperscape, everyone's really fast and has crazy abilities, and that's true, but the Skybreaker has a surprisingly large blast range, and if people are within that large blast zone, they will take a big chunk of damage. So go and try it out, fire off a blast from range to see if you can catch a group of enemies inside it. It's worth picking up sometimes, I promise you. Now the first automatic weapon we've come to in 4th place is the Ripper, which is the basic auto rifle, and this one may surprise you, but I'm picking the Ripper here purely because there's something else in the game that just beats it at what it's used for a lot of the time. It's a balancing issue. There's nothing actually wrong with the Ripper, it's a full auto rifle which does exactly what you'd expect. It's a great versatile gun, totally worth picking up unless you find the other gun that's going to be mentioned later. Yeah, not much to say about it. It's a good gun, use it. Next, in 3rd, we have the SMG, known as the Harpy. It's really good in close quarters as you'd expect most of the time, aside from when you're up against another gun which is just a bit too strong currently. But yeah, aside from that, I really like the SMG. Spammable yet kind of precise if you want it to be. I've selected it above the Ripper because it shines in a specific scenario, up close, whereas the Ripper is a very versatile option that simply isn't as good as something else that's also versatile, so these two may swap around with some balance changes, but anyway, for me, the SMG is currently in 3rd. Now in 2nd place, and comfortably in 2nd place, we have the grenade launcher known as the Salvo EPL. I have absolutely no idea why I don't see this being used so much more. No, it isn't great outside, and this is a BR game with lots of space, blah 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 blah, but where do people go when they want to get away or avoid the action? Inside. And how many of the buildings have super small indoor areas? Loads of them, where the grenade launcher is absolutely lethal. I've been finding it incredibly easy to pick this gun up and upgrade it. It just seems to get ignored a lot of the time, and so I've honestly been completely destroying with it. It wrecks people. Give it a try, get used to how it works, and profit. It's excellent. And so my best gun in Hyperscape at this early stage is the incredibly obvious pick for most of you right now. This gun is massively overused. It's the minigun known as the Hexfire. It's just silly. In a lot of ways it invalidates the auto rifle and on occasion the SMG. It destroys against the revolver and the semi-auto rifle a lot of the time too, because it's just so much easier to use, at least on console. It's too good at close range, it's too good at longer ranges, it's incredibly spammable. In a game where having lots of rounds is super strong due to the movement abilities, so missing your shots isn't punished as much with the Hexfire, and you rarely have to reload, which gives you a massive advantage over most of the other guns. This gun is not balanced. It's the most broken aspect of the release of Hyperscape, and it needs a nerf. It really needs a nerf. It just doesn't really have much of a weakness right now, and some of the other guns need a buff. Sort this out and we're looking really good for this game, and so that's my list of worst to best weapons at the release of Hyperscape. Let me know your list in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button, it really does help. Subscribe if you're new and you want to see more, and all the links to my social media, including Twitter where I post a lot, Patreon and all of that can be found in the description and my pinned comment. And with all of that said, I am GetGoodGuy, and I'll see you next time. Laters. Are you bored of the standard battle royale, formulaic, often slow for long periods, punishment heavy for those that actually want to play in an expansive manner? Well, a new option has hit the market.